You may end up with a pop-up button you might have to dismiss. And I'm going to keep one eye on our waiting room. And in the meantime, if you haven't already, please put your name, your county, and your role in the chat box. And I am going to proceed to do a quick overview here with our agenda. So we want to welcome everyone and thank we had 45 registrants for today's session, and it is being recorded. And we will be putting this up on our website in the next couple of days following the session. And then we also will send an email out to everyone who has registered with the link. But for those of you who want to peruse the website, we have a section of events, and under that is past events. So you'll find all the materials and tonight's slides, as well as recording there in a couple of days once we've got it downloaded and then uploaded over to the website. So thank you all for being here. We've just been really excited with the number of people that have had interest. And our first session on this deep dive, we had some very robust conversation and some great feedback. And I know we will be knocking it out of the park again tonight. We've got some amazing speakers. So want to go, we're going to do an icebreaker, then we will move into our panel. Our panel will be the vast majority of our time together tonight. Excuse me, I'll let some other folks in. And we will introduce those folks in a minute. And then I'll also be uploading their bios into the chat box. And then I also have a document that we will make available both here in the chat, but also on the website with the speaker bios and their photos. And then one of the main reasons behind these deep dives is for identifying potential advocacy areas that ACCBE could prioritize for this upcoming year. So we'll have a discussion around that, and then also any additional reflections and feedback from the audience. And my ask of all of you is that we will have a 3-question Google Doc here at the end that we'll get up in the last few minutes of our session, and would really appreciate your feedback on it. Feedback is so important for us in refining our programming and identifying programming for next year. Our programs committee has been working very hard to identify programming, and we're about ready to release our program and training calendar for the next 6 months. So it'd be super helpful to us if we can have your feedback as well to know if we're hitting the mark with the programming that we're putting on the calendar for 2026. So again, I know we've had a few of you join while we've started here, so if you haven't already had the chance, please put your name, county, and your position on the board in the chat. So want to talk a second here, our icebreaker. What is it you would like to learn today? And feel free to raise your hand. You can put it in the chat. Any ideas? Or maybe that's why you're here. Any thoughts what you'd like to learn today? All right, got a quiet group tonight. I'm gonna have to do a warm up.
Rena, appreciate her saying the continuance of part 1. Yeah, so we're going deeper today. We started global at the state, and now we're going deeper into counties. So thank you, Serena.
All right. Okay. So ACCBE, we are, as many of you know, a brand new organization. We are wrapping up our 10th month. And as the result of a strategic planning process that had occurred this past summer with about 20 to 25 representatives of county boards of education, this mission and vision statement emerged to be the focus of the organization. So we are formed to empower county board members to be confident advocates for all students, in that we're these leaders for the charge, and we'll actually be talking about the statutes tonight, the responsibilities for the county boards of education. Also, our vision, sometimes known as what we want to be when we grow up, as the leading voice for California County Boards of Education, we improve outcomes for students, families, and communities. So to support this mission and vision, there's actually been four organizational pillars that have been set around advocacy, partnerships, and our panel tonight is indicative of the partnership we've been building with OICR. Member empowerment, and that's part of our programming and equipping you as trustees of your boards, and then innovations of doing thought leadership, um, pulling in and highlighting research on things that are uh, being innovated in the school systems. And so keeping that, both the advocacy and the programming, very front and center and innovative. So, summary for you, there are about 8 main categories that came out of our discussion from October 9. Sorry for the cursor moving here. I'm pulling it over to let folks in. Um, One highlight was as our speakers talked about student demographics and outcomes, and the types of students that are in our court and community schools. And I'll be putting in here a link in the chat, and this will also be in our meeting materials, a full detail of the highlights from October 9th. But we just wanted to bring a few of these to your attention as we go into this next section. Funding and resources, one of the big highlights is that partnership between probation and the county boards of education, it's crucial in providing comprehensive services to these students. We had a lot of discussion around wraparound services that students are successful when they have a variety of their needs met and it's just not education focused, that they can study and excel when they have their other needs met as well. Legislative changes, discussion around just how the landscape has shifted in county boards of education and where those youth are and who those youth are that the COEs are responsible for. With detention facilities closing, not only are the youth coming to the county detention facilities sometimes older, they also have longer stays in those facilities. And then we had an overview of OICR, and we have Michael with us tonight. He will also be one of our panelists. Challenges in court and community schools, the importance of partnerships, and then we took some time focusing as well on the role of county board members in court and community schools and how they really serve at the intersection of policy, educational outcomes, and just general humanity of these students and these schools, and how we set students up to be successful. So again, in a minute, I will put the link in the chat to the full document so you can read the number of the outcomes that came from our first session on October 9. So, and then as another document we'll be posting, we have a 2-pager on the role of county boards in court and community schools, citing the education code here. But for both juvenile court and community schools, governing and adopting those courses of study, but then also evaluating their effectiveness. And then also serving as the quote school district when maintaining a county community school. The board serves as that district, and then county boards are to provide administration and operation of the juvenile court schools. And there's nuances in there, even if they aren't the direct provider, that they are responsible for seeing that that is provided, and the detailed document that we'll put in the chat talks more about that. So the purpose of today's deep dive session, one, obviously priority for the organization overall, and tonight is to educate trustees about successful programs in court and community schools of varying sizes. So with us tonight, Monterey, San Diego and Imperial County. So we'll give you a slice of successful programs across different size counties. What are the challenges, solutions, and as I mentioned, one of our purposes in this is to come away with some ideas for advocacy to improve this experience for the students and student outcomes, as well as the county boards that are responsible for them. Um, so I'm going to turn it over to Bina to introduce our speakers, and we have four of them. I don't know, Bina, if you want to handle that with self-introductions, and then I can also put this information in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. Yeah, I'm going to let each speaker do their own self-introduction. Really an incredible panel. I'm so excited and grateful to them for being part of this and helping plan this. And so just real quick, we'll just run through. We have Joanne Finney from San Diego. And then the next slide, we'll see we have uh, Deborah Brow from Monterey County. And then the next slide, you'll see we have Mona Lisa Vitella with her team there from Imperial. And then our last but not least speaker is Michael Massa with the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. And I was going to say one thing about each of them, but I want to get to the panel. So I'm going to ask them to make, Debbie, I don't know if we should take the PowerPoint down at this point, since I'm going to be facilitating the panel. And I'm going to go through and ask each one to just introduce themselves and then say their title, their county, and then if you're running a program, how many schools you have and how many students you have. So how many juvenile hall and community schools, how many students. And then after that, we're going to dive into questions around, we're going to start with literacy, and then we're going to, the panel's going to talk about what they're doing to improve literacy. And then we'll go to CTE, then dual enrollment, mental health, and hopefully we'll have time for transitions, but we'll see. Okay, so, and I want to ask the audience to please, as we're going along, if you have questions, there will be time for questions at the end of the panel, but please put your questions in as we go along, okay? So with that, I'm going to ask Joanne to start with her intro, and then we'll go to Deborah, then Mona Lisa, then Michael.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm Joanne Finney. I'm a principal with the San Diego County Office of Education. We have two secure facilities, one at the Youth Transition Campus in kind of downtown, more downtown San Diego. And then way at the border, we have the East Mesa Juvenile Detention Facility, where we have our secure youth. At YTC, we have students who are pre-adjudicated and adjudicated. Today, we had 32 on pre-adjudicated, 96 on commitment, and then we had 115 students at East Mesa who are waiting adjudication, are waiting to go into YTC, as well as our 50 students who are our secure youth. Our community schools have about 400 students. I really don't keep up with their population, so that's just an approximation from the last time that we had a leadership team meeting. Before I start, I just want to let folks know that the perspectives and examples that I'm sharing today are based upon my personal experiences within the juvenile courts and community school settings, and they might not necessarily represent the official policies of SDCOE, their procedures or regulations. That's about it.
That's great. Thank you, Joanne. We look forward to hearing more from you in a minute. Okay, Deborah.
Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Brow, and I am the Educational Administrator and Principal for the court schools with the Monterey County Office of Education. I have kind of an interesting hybrid role as I also provide our special education and federal program oversight for our court and community programs. So my background in special education comes in very handy with our population of students. This is my 29th year in education and my 18th plus year with court and community programs here at the county office. We operate a we call it our youth center, and it's a camp program by Ed Code. And we have a juvenile hall facility, just like many other counties. And then we have a community school that is just absolutely beautiful, new building, gorgeous, and that is serving between 80 and 100 students. Our court school serves, on average, our ADA is about 45 between the two programs. It's a single school, two facilities.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Mona Lisa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Lisa Vitella. I'm the Senior Director for Alternative Education here at our Juvenile Court and Community Schools. I have been with Imperial County Office of Education for 32 years. And I love our population, our staff, the students that we serve, families that we serve, and our community. We operate 3 community schools throughout Imperial County and 1 juvenile court school. As of today, we have 245 students enrolled. We have 24 students in custody, and approximately we had court yesterday, so 9 students are in secure track. So we've gone from 2 secure track students to this year we're up to 9, which is a pretty high number for Imperial County. But we're learning along with our county probation department. I have our principal here who is also working with supervisors there at our juvenile hall facility to ensure that we're providing all of the services that students need. And we're getting ready to gear up and start our CTE programs there at our juvenile hall facility. So thank you for having us here.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to the Imperial team for being with us. And then Dr. Michael Massa.
Good evening now. Yeah, I just want to say hello to Deborah. It's been too long. It's a pleasant surprise to see you here. If anyone gets a chance to get out to Monterey, they are doing just some really innovative things. Joanne, I consider a colleague in this work. We're doing literacy intervention in San Diego through her leadership. And the Imperial team, I've gotten to meet probation more than the county office folks. But OICR does have an Ending Girls Incarceration and a youth employment initiative in Imperial. And we're working with one of your SYTF students to transition into a less restrictive program. So the connectedness here just feels really good. And I love to see when the dots connect in the right way. So all that to say, my name is Michael Massa. I'm with the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. It looks like you guys had the overview last week. Essentially, we're an office within Health and Human Services, and we exist to support counties in the new paradigm shift that California has entered into to better support our young people in the juvenile justice system. So really happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, Michael. I know we're going to learn more about your various programs and throughout this hour. So, okay, well, I want to start with literacy. It's a priority for our county. Our kids are across the state, aren't performing. We don't have a lot of kids performing at grade level. And we know our students coming to us are at 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade level. So I'm going to start with Joanne and ask her if you could give us give us some insights into what you guys are doing to improve literacy. And if you can cite also some of the outcomes you might be having from your work, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. So in conjunction with OICR, San Diego was the first county to pilot SIPs within the juvenile detention facility. That program provides structure and systems to support students who are reading below 2nd grade. So when our students come into our facilities, they take the Renaissance Learning Assessment, and we look at where they've scored. If they score below 3rd grade, we kind of give them the San Diego Quick Assessment. And if they were still seeing some discrepancies, we give them the SIPS assessments. And then we provide that programming to them individually, because we never want a student to be have their dignity at stake, especially for non-readers. I come from a family of non-readers, and so it's very personal to me that a student's dignity is maintained if they cannot read. This past year, we've had kids come in reading with no phonemic awareness. So they can't go at cat, nothing. By the time that they've left us in 6, 7 months, they're reading at second and third grade level, which doesn't sound like a big, like a whole lot. But as a reading teacher, going from no phonemic awareness to reading short vowel and long vowel words is huge. And the self-esteem of our students goes up. Best story I have is where my office is located. It's in the library. And it's in the library because I want to touch base with every single kid about what they're reading and how they're reading. I had a student come in who could not read at all. He had a little bit of phonemic awareness, but he just couldn't put it all together. And I had him for about 8 months. He went through all the SIPs. He went through the second program that we have called Rewards. And when I asked him what he wanted to read, he said, "Whatever you're reading, Finny, well, you pick out." So I said, "I don't think you're going to like what I read because I read historical fiction. It's kind of boring." He goes, "No, Finny, you pick it out." So we're together. And he goes, I said, when you get out in the free, you can get a Libby card on your phone, the Libby app, which you can get free books. And he said he didn't want that. And I said, "Well, why not?" And he goes, "Because I want a library card, because I want to show everybody that I want to hold the book in my hand and tell them I'm a reader." His mindset completely changed from the time that he walked in to our facility of, I can't read, and I don't care about anybody and the horse they came in on, to a mindset of, I'm a reader, I'm successful, and I can go out and do what I want to do. And I attribute that to SIPs and the programming that we had with our reading teacher, who took the time and initiative to get to know every single child that we had. And she retired, and now we have a new reading instructor who does the same thing. Our whole mantra at YTC is, I am a reader, and reading, because it's fundamental to every other subject. If I don't know how to read, I can't do math, I can't do science. And so it's just, we're readers. We even got probation reading. So it's just, a thank you to Michael to, introducing the program to us, because it has changed the lives of our students in San Diego County.
Thank you. That was very moving testimonial. And just how teaching kids to read has so many other implications. Michael, I'm going to give you a minute to just say more about your pilot. Like, what other counties are you working with? Has anyone else started?
Yeah, thank you. So this was actually precipitated by the juvenile court judge in San Diego, who reached out to our office because of her concerns with the young people's ability to meaningfully participate in their own defense. She felt that they were in the courtroom listening to vernacular that was unfamiliar. It might have well been another language. And then the young people disconnect from the proceedings and often appear to not care, where it has nothing to do, they don't even know what's going on because the language being used is just so foreign. All the technical legal jargon and, the debate between the DA and the PD, it's just over the young person's head. And then that appearance of indifference gives a false narrative as to their understanding of what's going on. And so we took this very seriously because we want these are situations that young people are going to be impacted with for the rest of their lives, and it's unfair for them not to be able to participate meaningfully. So I accepted the challenge. I wanted to make sure that I found the right partners. Collaborative Classroom is a nonprofit organization, and that was really important to me. And they design literacy intervention for older students. So the problem that we were trying to address was that I was a principal in a juvenile court school in Los Angeles, and everything that was available is designed for schools in the community. It doesn't necessarily match the unique environment of a juvenile court school, and it based, for the most part, literacy interventions for high school students start at the fourth grade level, making the assumption that the kids are at least at that level, like when we talk about rewards or read 180. And so we knew there was a gap, that 0 to fourth grade, right? And there wasn't any real material that was able to address the needs for a very unique population of students that are impacted by high transiency rates. We knew we didn't have them for long. In California, the average length of stay in a juvenile detention facility is 40 days, which translates to 30 school days. And so we said, okay, that's our window. In 30 school days, what can we do? And then I pushed Collaborative Classroom to rethink their curriculum and be open to making the adjustments for this challenge. And they were like, yes, these are the kids we want to reach. And so everything just started clicking. We were able to meet with the leadership in San Diego. They opened up the doors. Joanne was an amazing partner. And we got kids who could not read and didn't know the letters and the sounds to really buy into this through a very strategic and intentional implementation. So that then opened up the door for us to secure more state funding to now expand. And I'm glad to see that Riverside is here. We're about to start in Riverside. We just started in San Mateo, and we are well on our way in Alameda. And so our eventual goal is to cover the state, but we want to make sure that we're learning also because every county is different. And we want to make sure that we're able to adapt to those local needs to maximize the return on the effort so that we can support the project, the implementation, and then hand it off.
Great, thank you. It sounds like we're going to have some good learning that we can all benefit from over this year. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to ask Deborah or Mona Lisa if you guys want to share if you're doing something different around literacy, if you want to spotlight a challenge that you're trying to overcome and how you're doing that. So Deborah or Mona Lisa.
I'd like to just add to, our previous Michael and Joanne, that in Imperial County, we, very similar situation. Many of our students are performing from 0 to 3rd, 4th grade. We have a very high number of students with disabilities. So it ranges from 30% to 50%, depending on the day. And we have really focused on teacher engagement and supporting professional development for our teachers. So we've partnered with our local school districts and we've adopted their curriculum, their language arts curriculum, mathematics, social studies, and science. And our teachers are participating in their PLCs as well. In addition to that, I have Blanca Frias here, who is our special ed designee, who's really adopted several support systems in our classrooms to ensure that students that are performing, far below basic are provided with the resources that they need to engage them, support them, and provide a smooth transition back to the district. So she's going to share a little bit regarding the programs, the reading literacy programs that we're using.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Blanca Lopez Frias. I am the special education designee for COE Alternative Education. And one of the things that we've done during our summer is we do intensive planning. We use a professional learning community as our way to ensure that our students we identify our English language learners, we identify also our students' disabilities, we identify also using our district-wide assessment, we use NWEA MAP, Measures of Academic Progress. So we start the summer planning with really diving into the data and targeting each subject. So we take about 4 to 5 weeks of backwards mapping. We select our standards, and then our students, our teachers, our special education teachers, and also our general education teachers, we work together for 4 weeks, and we plan our pacing guides for the whole following school year, keeping in mind who is our population. So our students with disabilities and our English language learners are always in mind, right? And creating robust lessons with all the scaffolds embedded in the pacing guides, also with all the interventions. And when we use interventions, we go ahead and use Barton for our non-readers. We also use IXL for our students to build upon the skills that they already have. And that's IXL is for all content area. And we also use read naturally to build fluency. So, and those are interventions that we do throughout. So we do have little pullouts within the classroom, and because our students are in a self-contained classroom, they feel very comfortable with their peers, with their gen ed teachers, with their instructional assistants, with our special education teachers coming in the classrooms to support their learning. So they participate in these intensive lessons that they're given, and depending on how they're doing. Once they prove mastery, or they're making progress and they're increasing their reading levels, that's how they're kind of like go back into their gen ed settings more than the little 1 hour pullouts that we have for some of our students a day. Another things that we do too is our teachers within the classroom to support literacy, they're doing novels. So during the summer, teachers select the novels, and those are the novels that we read in our court school, and we also read them in all our community school classrooms. And so we create interest in reading, right, by everybody reading together. So students participate in choral reading, or they listen to the teacher read, or some teachers have some students start reading by themselves. So we build that relationship with our students where they're raising their hands like, I'll read next, right? So we start with listening to the audio, teacher reading, choral reading, and then also eventually the students reading out loud and feeling comfortable to reading. So we've had, go
Thanks.
ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I
Thank
want to
you.
give Debbie a minute to,
Oh, yeah, I
Deborah a minute to.
apologize.
Yeah, no, this is great. I just wanted to make sure Deborah has a minute or two to share what you guys are doing if you want to add to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Bina. I do want to add, these formats are so difficult because I know the counties are all doing amazing work and we all have our own unique challenges. And I think there's a kind of interest level from all of us that are administrators to not omit something that's really important that we're doing, right? So please don't consider any of our responses to be all encompassing of everything we do, because we would never have the time for it this evening, right? I did want to share, we also use the NWEA MAP growth test, but where we have really found a benefit to that test is that it plugs into another supplemental curriculum that we've purchased called Newsella. And Newsella allows students to read nonfiction articles, which are really, we have found those to be of very high interest to students. If just a topic they're interested in, we have it on their computer, so on their little Chromebook, they can like look up the article, they can engage with the article, it can be read to them. And that Lexile level from Newsella, in Newsella will plug into their NWEA score. So it allows the whole class, for example, could be assigned an article by the teacher to read, and each student would receive it at their own reading level. Or students can go in and self-select articles as kind of an independent driven activity during English language arts. So I think that's been just a huge benefit to have that. We did purchase the package from that company because it allowed us to also get social studies, science, and like history articles as well as current events. So I think that's been a big benefit. And I wanted to just share that the other thing I think is really important is to keep, especially like in the juvenile court school, really high interest books in that library. So when kids at our facility, they have a way to request titles through the teachers, and we just have this little process. We buy books every month, and it's really amazing to watch and see what the kids are self-selecting to read with the books that they can keep, on their own on the unit. So keeping those libraries really robust, I think, is a great strategy. And then the literacy goes hand in hand with those academic gaps. And I heard some of the other COEs reflecting on that. One of the gaps that we identified, Bina, which is particularly challenging in the court facilities, is that computer literacy gap. So the ability for students to write an essay using like Microsoft Word, we have moved to a computer, they're called framework computers, and they're just all the software is on the device. There's no Bluetooth or anything like that. So there's no internet connectivity, which means they are very easy to supervise in our court facilities. But students have access to the full Microsoft Office suite. And I'll drop in a teaser. We're going to use them also for our CTE engineering program, but it'll all be self-contained software on the devices. And we know that, reading and writing kind of go hand in hand. You need to be doing both, right, for the best practice. So the ability for them to write essays for their college classes and their actual like English class or their math class or their history class, write an essay, and they can take those devices back to the unit, and it's just one-to-one on those, and we don't have to monitor them very carefully. It's great.
Great, thank you. Thank you. A lot of good points hit on, a lot of one-on-one interventions, attention, use of technology, libraries in our schools with robust libraries with books of high interest. I thought those were all great, and the need for digital literacy. So thanks for that. I know we could spend an hour on each topic, so I apologize if I'm feeling a little pushy, because I do want to talk actually about CTE next. And I was going to start with Mona Lisa, because I know you guys are doing some really cool stuff that I'm aware of. So again, if you could do a high, 3-4 minute overview of what you're doing on CTE, I'd appreciate it.
So our CTE programs are very robust. They are aligned to our local college here, Imperial Valley College. They are articulated as well. We have a HVAC classroom in the north end, and we were very fortunate the last couple of years to have hired the HVAC instructor from the local college to come in and teach our students. And we spent about 2 years during COVID to go into our local college and identify areas where we can mirror, the same classroom as the college did on our campus. So we spent a lot of time, effort, and some funding to align it to our local college. So we use the same materials, same college textbooks. In El Centro, we have a medical assistant CTE course, and students at the end of the semester, I apologize, at the end of the school year, are offered the national health exam. So they are able to pretty much leave anywhere that they want to in the United States and receive a job in the medical field. They're going into externships at the second semester. We have partnerships with approximately 27 to 29 physicians. And basically, once they graduate from high school, they're employable. If not already hired from their local hospitals, clinics. We also have an arts and media class. And in Calexico, we have a barber academy. So the students there are learning haircuts, they're learning mathematics, they're learning how geometry and algebra relate to, haircuts. And what was that? Chemistry as well. So we're starting a new PLC group with our CTE instructors to really align the curriculum with our gen ed teachers, SPED teachers, and CE teachers. We'd really like to align what they're learning in the classroom and how it relates to CTE. The classes that we're offering are articulated, and so they're using college books. And we have students that are also, students with disabilities, and they are thriving in our CTE classrooms. Last year, our juvenile hall facility was very interested in piloting a barber academy. So we were very fortunate that at the time, the chief probation officer allowed for one of our juvenile hall students to exit juvenile hall and attend our barber academy school. So he was integrating with our students in the classroom. He was learning a skill, and would go back into the facility. And so we're really trying to empower all of our students with core community schools, our independent study students, our students in our community school classrooms. So we're very fortunate that we have very robust CTE programs. The local high schools are coming to our campus and visiting our schools now, and they're replicating our CTE programs. So it's
flattering.
It really is. And once students transition back to the districts, you know, if they're offering these courses, CTE courses, and our students are able to transition and not only receive the core history, science, you know, all of their core academics, but they're also able to receive the same CTE courses. So our CTE teachers are having conversations at the local district. In February, we're going to hold a Barber Academy competition. So, and it'll be here on our site. So we also have dual enrollment courses that we're offering in our juvenile hall and our community schools. Patricia Sanchez is our principal, and I don't know if she would like to add anything in regards to our CTE offerings, but I'll allow, do you have anything to add? Anything that I've kind of missed? So yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our medical assistant class, students are engaged in phlebotomy, EKG, CPR, front office, and back office. So they're receiving not only a medical assistant certification, but they are also receiving an EKG certification, phlebotomy certification, CPR certification, and a medical assistant national exam certification at the end of the year when they graduate.
I love how you're providing all these certifications to the students, connection to real life people who are doing this work in the community. That's really, really exciting. Great.
Our
I'm
county,
gonna,
just one really quick last thing as we students are using scrubs, they're also participating in our county office blood drives.
yep. Okay. I love the like applied learning, actually helping your
Yes.
county office. That's wonderful. Thank you. And I love the fact that you're doing dual enrollment embedded within your CTE. So I'm going to actually turn to Michael now because I know he's doing some statewide work with the Department of Rehab on some CTE stuff. And then I'm going to ask either Joanne or Deborah, so you guys can decide who wants to describe their CTE program. So Michael, would you share a little bit with what you're doing?
Thank you. So the Department of Rehabilitation reached out to us and really wanted to see how we could partner and make career exploration more robust in our detention settings. And so what we did was created this youth employment initiative where we have 10 counties that are getting support through this initiative to bring workforce development into the facility and also have funds for paid internships. So if young people are allowed to get a furlough and go into the community, and we wanted to incentivize the local businesses to be excited about providing these opportunities, especially because the funding for the work wouldn't be coming out of their budget. We would be able to cover that. And then in places where that may not be a possibility, the young people would be able to get paid for their internships within the facility through their participation in the workforce initiative. And so it's happening in 10 counties through the initial initiative, but we all felt that because of the present situation in Los Angeles, it would be a huge um, missed opportunity. And so I was able to work with LA County individually to replicate that model for them through a singular effort. And we were able to make it. We got their contracts to approve. We actually had our first meeting this past Wednesday at their SYTF site, which has about 100 young people. And so, we're just covering our bases and it's small counties, large counties, rural, urban. And we definitely wanted to make sure that LA, just because we knew those young people needed more than what's available right now.
I love the paid part of the internship and the fact that our young people are having, again, real life learning opportunities in addition to getting paid. And you're focused on kids with special ed needs. So and we know we have a lot in our court and community schools. So Joanne, Deborah, hopefully we can do both of you, but who would like to go first?
So Joanne and I quickly messaged each other and I'm tapped. So I'm going to be speaking because we wanted to reflect on a small scale what CTE can look like. Monterey County Court and Community Programs, we don't have the scalability that is available at like a Laco or San Diego or Imperial County, because we really do operate a very small program. And I also can mention that we have some fabulous charters in our county that do just massive CTE programming. So, we want to focus on the needs that are not being met by the students that are coming to us and what their CTE interest might look like. And sometimes, we refer them to the other programs because that's the program that fits their interest. The thing that we're really excited about currently is our ability to use our CCSPP grant funding to start a robotics club in our court settings. And the very high interest that was shown by the students with engineering with regards to the robotics, and they're doing battle bots and they're building robots and programming them to do certain things. And so this involves teamwork, it involves reading directions, it involves trial and error. And I saw kids live flip out servo motors on a robot. I didn't even understand what they were doing, and they did it so fluidly because it just came so natural to them because they had been using those materials and tools, that we decided to build an engineering pathway in our court schools. And we have ordered, it's called Green Car USA, and it is available to comprehensive schools and schools all over the country to do time trial racing in cars that kids actually sit in and drive. They build it from the ground up, it's battery powered. And the idea is, how efficiently can you run the car? So we are building our engineering pathway to lean in on that so that we can have competition against other schools. Our kids in our court school will just be another school competing, that people wouldn't know that they're in a detention facility. And they're really excited about that. So that's involved just significant collaboration with probation, the McCate Center at the Monterey County Office of Education, because they're helping us build out that entire pathway, really assessing with the students where their interests are and figuring out how to make a program that can work for those 9 to 12 month camp programs, when we know that there's an ending to that incarceration and that we need to have them ready for what's next. So I think the engineering pathways that we're building out in collaboration with some local, there's a little bit of nonprofit involved, there's a lot of the McCate Center at MCOE, and then our CCSPP grant as the seed money is something creative we were able to do at a small scale here in Monterey County for our students.
Nice. And then, okay, in your community schools, are you able to do any CTE?
The community school is also starting an engineering pathway, and they're also doing a digital media arts pathway with a focus on the students' ability to do their own storytelling and their own, to kind of build efficacy around their own experiences and be able to express those. So that is a CTE pathway that is not widely available at other schools in the area as well. So it also gave us something we could build that would be a little different. We've always kind of thought, okay, if they've come to us, it's because the comprehensive schools or the charters in the area were not a good fit. So we need to do things just a little bit differently, maybe use a little bit different curriculum, different scheduling, and slightly different CTE pathways. Because if for construction, for example, there's a charter that is available for them to go do construction, or the ROP Center has extremely robust medical pathways. So we were looking at the unique experiences of alt ed students and what would be motivating to them in a CTE pathway.
Nice, great, awesome. I'm going to switch now to mental health and kind of support services. And Joanne, may I call on you, and then I'm going to go back to Mona Lisa. If you want to just give us some highlights on what you guys are doing to address mental health
Yes,
concerns and challenges.
thank you. So our students come in, we are under the assumption every child is traumatized because they've all been arrested. And so we have a 55% special education population as of today. And so we have trained our teachers, our probation officers on trauma-informed care and restorative practices under the umbrella of the multi-tiered systems of support. For our positive behavior intervention plan, which is PBIS, we worked diligently with San Diego County Probation to make it across this entire system. So if you go from a classroom at YTC to a pod at East Mesa, all of our rules and expectations are the same. So students have that consistency. And we found that having consistency helps greatly. We have SEL check-ins every day. We have our special education students are provided with mental health. All of our students at YTC have an assigned clinician in their pod, in their cottage, which is something different than a lot of schools have. But as the Georgetown model, that's one of the things that are required is that students have a 24-hour access to a mental health provider. We also work very closely with county mental health. If a student is in crisis, our teachers over Teams, we alert their clinicians, we alert the psychiatrist, we alert medical, whoever's needed at that particular time in order to help a student through crisis. We provide a lot of art therapy. We work in conjunction with the Temkin Museum and the San Diego County Museum of Art, as well as Combat Arts and Outside the Lens, to provide students with extracurricular activities so they have an outlet for their emotional needs, which Outside the Lens is providing an internship, about $1,500 per student. Right now, with 10 kids at YTC, and then next semester they'll do with 10 students at East Mesa. The other thing that we're doing is we have we make sure that there's a smooth handoff when our students are released. So if they need any type of mental health care, and they're going to our community schools, they're informed right away of what the students need, how often that they need it, and the same thing going into the districts. And so probation and education have played a strong role in making sure that that warm handoff happens quickly and with the least amount of stress for the student and their families.
Great. That's a lot of support. I didn't realize young people get 24 access to mental health care. That's good to hear in your facilities. Okay, so Mona Lisa, how about I know you guys are doing a lot in the area of mental health supports. If you give us a quick overview of some of the cool things you're doing.
I'm going to introduce Maria Wyatt here. She's our MTSS coordinator. We're very happy and we're very proud to have hired her about a year ago. She comes from the behavioral health side, and we have worked together for over 25 years. So now she's she moved from Imperial County Behavioral Health Services over to the County Office of Education. So I'd like her to share all of the initiatives that she has going with MTSS.
So, good evening, everyone. So like Ms. Mitela said, my name is Maria Wyatt. Right here at Office of Education, right here with Alternative Education, we have a wellness team. It's 3 people, but it's actually the whole school. As you know, they mentioned, we are all trauma informed. We know that our students, even just a little background, Imperial County, we have a population, we're a small rural county. We have 180,000+ people. Majority is Hispanic. So a lot of our students come with a lot of trauma, just like it's mentioned before. But with our wellness team and our teachers, our instructional aides, everyone, we all do check-ins. As soon as a student comes in, either at the juvenile hall or here at the community schools, they go, right away staff calls us. You know what? We have a student's having a difficult day. We go. Each of the classrooms, we have a wellness room where we can go in there and the student can go in there and, if they're having anxiety, stress, they're just having a bad day. So it starts from the beginning as they're coming in, entering their school. We have a great collaboration with behavioral health, with the mental health and substance use disorder. Our schools, all 3 school sites are Medi-Cal certified. So the behavioral health comes and provides treatment here in our school sites. They are Medi-Cal, so we are Medi-Cal certified to provide treatment through behavioral health. We have, clinicians come from behavioral health. They provide trauma-focused CBT. They have mental health rehabilitation specialists that provide mental health techniques to our students. And then we as a health wellness team, we provide support services. We have peer support, peer counseling groups. We have anger management groups. We have our therapy dogs that come from behavioral health. So we have a really good collaboration. Also, we do warm handouts when our students are at juvenile hall and they're transitioning back to the community school. They're getting services at juvenile hall through our wellness teams, check-ins, therapy. So when they get released, they continue with these services here at the schools too. We have ART, aggression replacement training also for those students. So, and actually we are developing a program in the North End with behavioral health collaboration for those students that need more intensive services. It's going to be in school. Behavioral health staff will be at the school site and they will be providing the services at the school. One of the things, and you mentioned the challenges here is we don't have that many, because it's Imperial County, a lot of psychiatrists here. And we have a lot of stigma. So we are always working toward decreasing that stigma. We want our students to get the services, but because it could be cultural, a lot of time it's cultural. A lot of parents, a lot of students, they are, they know they need the services, but they don't want to get the services. So us as a school, we provide a lot of supportive services, a lot of very safe, a lot of welcoming area. So we want to encourage our students to continue, getting services. They might not want behavioral health services, but we are there to provide support for them as a wellness team.
Thank you. That's great. I like the idea of the wellness team and the fact that you have such strong partnerships with your behavioral health, county behavioral health department. And I know Michael lifted up the fact that looks like you're really drawing on CalAIM, which I know is a way to get reimbursement for mental health supports.
Yes, and we are looking right now because of the BHSA going from the MHSA and transitioning to the BHSA, the funding sources at behavioral health. One thing that behavioral health is, they are doing a residency program. So to increase psychiatrists here at Imperial County, which is so much needed.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a gap in personnel to provide psychiatric services. Deborah, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to give us if there's something you want to add from your county about mental health supports.
I think that what we're doing that might be slightly unique is that in our community school setting, I have 2 FTEs dedicated to mental health supports, and they're slightly different approaches. So one is through the Monterey County Children's Behavioral Health. We have a contract for a full FTE. It's for gen ed intervention services. And that person is on our campus, readily available for students all the time, drop-in model, or to help de-escalate or do restorative justice practices with students if necessary. Get plugged into families, get families plugged into county mental health services. It really helps to have that person on our team who is plugged in with our county mental health, because it allows for a more seamless transition of services and an understanding of the complex needs of the family. If they've plugged into services elsewhere, once that clinician is working with them, she can see that, within the county databases. The other program is really more focused on students and bullying and interpersonal skills. And so each clinician kind of has a different focus and a different, frankly, a different funding stream too. So it helps us to meet the needs of all the students. The thing that I want to highlight in Monterey County that I think is particularly effective is that our SELPA is the provider for mental health services for all of our kids with IEP-based services. And what we've been able to do, if a student comes in from the peninsula, as an example, and they come into the court detention setting, I can call Monterey County Children's Behavioral Health and we can get their clinician that they were already working with, have an established routine with, on Zoom with that student or in person at times too, so that there's a continuum of care and there's not a gap in those services. As we know, most of our students come in and out of the detention facilities very quickly, and they don't stay. And we found that this was the most effective way, particularly to support our students with IEPs and things like social emotional disabilities needing that continuity of care. And then we can make sure that they're also supported on the way out back to their school. So I think that that's been a very effective model for us.
Yeah, again, the use of county mental health services, and I like the idea of the continuum of care, that your young people, when they leave you, have access to these supports kind of in an ongoing way. It's kind of what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing that correctly. That's great. So I encouraging our members who are listening to put questions in the chat. I want to give Michael a few minutes to maybe talk about dual enrollment and college access. I know OICR is doing a lot of work trying to connect young people coming out of the justice system to college opportunities. And then if we have time, I did want to have each of you say a little bit, or maybe one of you talk a little bit about transition back to either their home school or back to, when they leave you, how are you doing successful transitions, if we have time for that. So Mike, I'm going to give you a few minutes to talk about the dual enrollment.
Can I ask, in the legislative conversation at the last meeting, did you guys talk about Assembly Bill 2181? I don't want to be redundant.
I don't think so. You want to mention
Okay,
that?
so just really quickly, so essentially, in the juvenile court school world, many of our young people are eligible for a state minimum credit diploma, sometimes referred to as an AB 216 diploma. And essentially, that was legislation really created for foster youth. Because of the movement in so many different schools, it's impossible to stay with their 4-year graduation cohort. And so the way that the state looked to fix that was say, okay, if you take all the core classes, your history, math, English, science, you can get waived out of the electives. And so as long as you meet the minimum 130 credit requirement, you can graduate on that minimum diploma. However, there are limitations to that because then you can only go to a community college and, other factors. But we knew that the kids were dropping out in large numbers because they couldn't stay with their cohort. Many of our young people are crossover from child welfare, and this ended up extending to young people in juvenile detention facilities. And now that we have SYTF programs where young people can be in detention for up to 7 years, there's no need to rush them through anymore. So AB 2181 fixes that in that if a young person graduates with a minimum state diploma, that diploma can be held in abeyance so that that young person can continue to access the county office of education. If a diploma is issued, the county office can no longer really support students. They can't fall on a roster, so no teacher can really have that young person in their class. This fixes that, right? Now the young people can take all those elective classes, participate in the CTE that we just described, and get a more fulfilled educational experience. Because of this, dual enrollment is going to be so critically important because these graduates, we want them to be in the college classes and the state invested in making this available through the Rising Scholars Network. So there are 45 community colleges that were all funded to provide higher education access to all the juvenile detention facilities. Some have more than one, some have one, but every detention facility has at least one partnership. So while those minimum state graduates are in their college classes, but they're not out of the county office of education system for access to CTE and electives, that's where the dual enrollment is going to be so critically important because we want them to excel in both areas. And this helps probation in that now there are healthy programming opportunities for our young people who could be in these facilities for really long periods of time. So dual enrollment is going to be critically important. I know there's a lot of misunderstandings around dual enrollment. We host an education advisory committee meeting on a monthly basis where we talk about all of these issues and brainstorm with probation leadership, county office leadership, community-based organizations, higher education institute. We all come together on a monthly basis, and it's a completely open meeting. So if anyone wants to be on that email list and be on those invites, if you put your email in the chat, I'll get you added right now in real time. So again, for a 15-year-old who's going to be in detention for 7 years, we know there's going to be the opportunity to graduate from high school, take college classes, get work experience, get paid for that experience. That's the vision we want to really see, and why SB 823 really changed the structure of juvenile justice. Because before, when kids were in the state detention systems, the recidivism rate was 80% by their own account. That's an absolute failure. We were pipelining kids into the adult system. All these new tools, which and I'll be the first to admit, were just thrown out there with very little guidance and very little support, but they exist. And so now we're trying to catch up to these resources and really help support counties use the tools that are available in a way that really trickles down to student support.
No, thank you. So I have joined Michael's group once a month, and I have to say it's very enlightening. So if you're a trustee that wants to get a little bit more into to get more deeper knowledge of how probation and our county schools are working together and providing particular supports to kids, particularly around this college access piece. And I think you're starting to talk about CTE as well. I encourage you to join that meeting once a month. And also as a trustee, perhaps thinking, I don't know if what your county offices are doing around dual enrollment for both your court schools and your community schools, but I think it's an incredible opportunity for kids, young people, to get both high school and college credit, and to take that first college class. So I think we have a few minutes. Maybe if I could ask one of our Deborah or Joanne or Mona Lisa, one of you guys, if you're doing dual enrollment, to maybe just say a few words about how that's working on your campus. Just one of you.
I can talk about that. We
Okay.
started our dual enrollment courses. We started at our juvenile hall facility. We started 2 years ago for that same reason, right? Because we knew that students were going to be there for several years, and it went very well. And we piloted last year here in our community school, and we made a huge celebration when students were, number one, we selected students, and then we opened it up to classrooms to see if students wanted to enroll in dual enrollment courses. For the most part, not many students raised their hand, last year. But the ones that we selected, we provided certificates. We went to their homes. We made, a big celebration and told parents, your child has been selected to be enrolled in our junior college. And the faces, the smiles on parents' face when they heard that their child was going to be enrolled in a college course was priceless. and they completed the courses successfully. All students received an A. One student received a B, through their dual enrollment courses. Those students came back this school year and they motivated and encouraged all of their peers. We also went out and purchased Imperial Valley College t-shirts for them so that they can share, all the great things that they're doing. And we reached out to our local junior college and we asked them for swag. We said, give us swag. We want our students to feel like they belong at Imperial Valley College, because poverty is cyclical and we are trying to eliminate and reduce the number of the families that are going into poverty. And if we embrace it, if we motivate them, if we celebrate them that they are capable and we believe in them, they're going to shine. And we have been, this next year, we're already, having conversations with all of our students and our parents about dual enrollment. Our college, the junior college is already on our campuses, going into every classroom, encouraging them. And when they're coming in and they're seeing the student in the back seat wearing an IDC college shirt, and then they stand up, I'm a college student as well, and they're in that classroom, it motivates other students. One of the unique ideas that we had in piloting our dual enrollment is that we did not want to give our students any more anxiety than they already have, right? So we assigned our instructional assistants and our career specialists. So we have cohorts. So our instructional assistants and our career specialists go into the classrooms and they meet with students that are enrolled in dual enrollment, and they ask them, can you please open up your Canva and show me where you need help? Let me see how you're doing. Where do you need support? And at the beginning, they were struggling. They couldn't get into the course. And with the support of our staff, every student received an A and one received a B. So I think it's very important to really look at those systems.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the fact that you are providing that additional support so that the young people can be successful and get that help along the way. We had a question about whether anyone is doing dual enrollment in their community schools where your kids are
Yes.
generally staying. Is anyone doing that in there?
That's us. That's what we're doing.
You are, and then I saw Deborah. Deborah, you want to say a few words about how you're doing dual enrollment?
Can I just make a quick comment about Imperial Valley? One of their young students in SYTF is about to get his third associate's degree in December. So this is a testament to where this could be. And that doesn't happen. That's because probation and the county office work so closely together that they've really built a college culture. And the young people, through those initial resistance may not have seen themselves as college students, are now absolutely thriving. And I just really want to acknowledge the hard work for Mona Lisa and her team, because they are doing fabulous things.
Thank you for sharing that. Congratulations. And congratulations. That's exciting. And I know Fresno said they've graduated 2 students with AA degrees. But Deborah, you want to talk a minute about how you're doing dual enrollment in the community school side?
Sure. At our community school side, we have a modified independent study program, and we moved to that model so that we had the greatest flexibility in scheduling for students. But within that model, we have a class being taught on our campus, which is the introductory college class. It's called Counseling 101 with Hartnell Community College, through their Rising Scholars program, and everyone had access to it. So we have a whole cohort taking that class this fall. And it's really exciting. We have a long history of assisting students with enrolling at the community college in the afternoons and evenings, and modifying their independent study schedule during the day to get them access to different classes, but doing it on our campus during our instructional day, that is something we've just started to do, and it's very exciting.
So if they're with you for less than a semester, are they still able to persist and keep the community college class going when they leave you? Or is that you haven't had that situation yet, Deborah?
Our community school students generally are with us for the entire semester, so we've not run into that at the community school side.
Okay.
On the court school side, I can share that when we're aware of release, we moved to a model with Hartnell College for an 8-week cycle. So they're like condensed classes so that we would be able to onboard and offboard students more frequently because of the ins and outs that we experience in that camp program.
Okay, that's great. It's good to hear that they're shortening it.
I'm so sorry to keep
That's
jumping in.
okay.
It's
No,
just
go
there's
for it.
things happening that speak to this. The so the community colleges have gotten really creative and are working with their local school presidents, deans, and in certain circumstances, they can create and collapse courses so that a traditional 15-week semester course can be tailored to an 8-week course so that we alleviate the situation of the young people not finishing. There are even some summer courses that they're trying to get down to 4 weeks where the students take classes every day so that they meet those requirements. And this is that calibration that we're going through right now where it's just taking that creativity, thinking outside the box, and really making it fit for the juvenile detention setting and not expecting this setting to translate to settings that don't really take into account the unique circumstances.
That's very hopeful because it shows that we can all be doing this in our counties with the right people thinking creatively. I am going to ask our members on the call if they have questions. We're going to do questions for a few minutes, and then I was going to ask our speakers to give us any advice around any kind of advocacy they think we county board members should be thinking about. And then we want to do a quick reflection with our participants to kind of see what you're taking away, what excited you, what questions you have. So let's start with questions. Well, hold on one sec. Let's just start from questions from our participants. If you want to either speak it out or just put it in the chat. Does anyone have a quick question before we go to our advocacy suggestions by our speakers? It's okay if you don't, but just wanted to give a chance for people to ask. Okay. So if you think of one, put it in the chat and then be thinking of your reflection after we hear from our speakers about any advocacy tips that or advocacy ideas that they think we county board members should be thinking about bringing forth. So you can put your slide back up, Debbie, sorry. Okay. So what should we be thinking about? Any suggestions for advocacy? So anyone want to start of our 4 speakers?
I'm more than happy to just at least get it going because I know the real brain trust will come after me. Our juvenile justice system as it is now, post SB 823, is really looking to have young people rehabilitate in community settings. And part of the legislation and the allowance now is for young people to step down from a detention setting into a less restrictive program, sometimes historically known as these transition homes, but that's not it. It's not just a bed anymore. These are comprehensive wraparound services through a lot of the resources that we discussed earlier today, through Cal AIM, Medi-Cal, the state, the Prop 1 funding. The state is really investing in an effort to have young people get their rehabilitation in community settings to help promote more successful reentry and reduce the recidivism. So when a young person graduates from high school and gets their AA, just like we're seeing this happening in real time, right in the chat, we know that those young people should be pipelining onto the 4-year campuses. And I'm so glad someone pointed out Fresno. Fresno State, their Project Rebound, a program on their campus designed to support people with lived experience, purchased 2 homes with university funds, grant funds. They just got really creative. to have a housing option so that a young person can step down, live in these homes, continue their education, post their associates on a trajectory to get their 4-year degree. With a 4-year degree connected to Project Rebound or Underground Scholars, which is the UC version, the recidivism rate is less than 1%. There is no other intervention in our system. No mental health, no behavior health, no clinical. There's nothing as successful as the 4-year degree. I know the pushback that I keep hearing is not everyone is made for college. I get that, but let's at least create this pathway for those that can be successful on this route. And from my experience, when the rest of the young people see their friends taking advantage of these opportunities, it's amazing how they rise to these challenges. And so I just encourage us to really start thinking, regardless of how much time is on a young person's commitment, if they are demonstrating that they are ready and working towards their liberation, we have to support that. And now we have a vehicle in which to do so. So I really hope that board members are really thinking about that. These aren't prisons. They should not be prisons. And how do we get kids out in the quickest way possible so that they are in a healthy, nurturing environment, especially during their impressionable adolescent development, to really gain the skills necessary to come back into community and be our neighbors, and where we feel good that they are our neighbors. So that's what I would ask.
Nice. Thank you. That's a good frame about how can we be thinking about equipping our young people coming out of our juvenile halls and our community schools to be ready and to have the supports they need. So I'm going to go to either Joanne, Mona Lisa, or Deborah, if you have a thought on areas that our county board members should be thinking around advocacy, whether it's local or statewide advocacy.
I'll go
Just
on a statewide.
go ahead.
I think Joanne's going to go, and then we'll go to Mona Lisa.
On a statewide framework, there needs to be sustained funding for the juvenile court and community schools. Right now, we're an ADA model. Like Michael said, our kids average 40 days. And it just, we're not getting the funds that we need in order to support our students. We're out of that traditional framework. So when you look at the dashboard for accountability measures, we're compared to the regular comprehensive high school. And when your kids are only there for about 40 days, or like we talked about last time, and I showed you what it looks like, it hurts our schools. And our schools need the funding in order to create all these programs that our students truly need. And also, we need to call attention to staffing shortages. Right now, there is a statewide shortage for guest teachers. The governor just vetoed a bill that would allow guest teachers to go 60 days. And that really hurt, because I need somebody in my school when my teachers go on holiday or when they call in sick, and to only have them there in one classroom for 30 days for the entire year hurts kids, bottom line. So that's why I would ask you to advocate for address staffing shortages and to make sure that we have a clear, sustained funding model.
Those are two great ones. ACCBE did support the bill the governor vetoed. So we will come back at it next year, and hopefully with more voices, with more county voices, hopefully will help. Mona Lisa.
Go ahead. Thank you, Bina. I just want to thank you and your team for, starting this platform so that COEs can share best practices and challenges, because this is really the foundation where you as a board member can go back and share what you're learning from other COEs and be able to advocate. I have to piggyback on what Joni Finney is referring to, ADA model. It's difficult when grants go away. So currently we have our California Community Schools grant, and Maria is under our bipartisan Safer School grant. So they come in, they're providing exceptional services for our students and families. Our parent and student engagement has increased by at least 50%. Our students with disabilities and students that are coming in with very high anxiety and trauma, you know, they're coming in and we're providing an exceptional service. However, these dollars will dry out. So our personnel they're gonna go away, and then what happens, right? So we're making huge gains currently, but what happens when these dollars dry out and the services go away? And that's
Yeah.
really important, especially for kids that need love the most.
Yeah,
We serve
Okay.
kids that need love the most.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's see. Deborah, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
And I would just like to elevate a little more that ADA conversation around community schools, specifically not our court population, but our students in Monterey County who choose to come to the community schools by one mean or another, often find it to be a safe place where they're very successful because the model is so different than the schools that they have come out of. And one of the great challenges we have as COEs is that if a probation officer refers a student, for example, who's on probation truancy, and they are successful, they will fall off of that higher funding stream the next academic year if they choose to stay with us. We don't force them to go back, but we lose like supplemental concentration, equity multiplier funds, all the extras are not part of their funding formula anymore. And we don't charge our districts for all the costs related to our programs at all. We are funded by ADA. So I know that that's wildly varying across the state, talking with other COEs. There's different types of MOUs in place with districts. I do think that if you have a student who's been so at risk that we've removed them from a comprehensive and they're choosing to stay with a COE program, that funding should be sustainable until they graduate.
So thank you. Chelsea, do you want to speak to your question? I don't know if it was answered or if if our speakers want to address this. I think Deborah was addressing it, I believe, but is there more there that you want to just know about,
No.
Chelsea?
No, I mean, that was really helpful. Thank you for all that feedback. I'm just sort of trying to navigate it because I've been hearing that there are districts that county offices that just pay for the entirety of the costs. And maybe that's through ADA, but I will say for our community schools, they are by and large, none of our students are referred by probation at this point because we don't have probation on our campuses. And so they're not making those, or the judges aren't making those referrals. And so I would like to explore, and I wanted to get a gauge on how many county offices are in fact, basically paying for that cost, whether it's through ADA or they're choosing to sustain it through their own funding, through other grants or just general fund. So, thank you.
I actually am curious now because we get LCFF funding. Is that what you're calling ADA funding?
We do get some LCFF funding, but it is not sufficient for those programs. It's very much less than the programs.
Okay, so this would be a good question for us to explore with our members and the county soups.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we had a request before we get to the foster student one, we had a request from Nevada County, Louise, about if you're a small county, how do you fund a community school? And does anyone want to tackle that one? I know Monterey, you're our smallest county here, I think. Any thoughts on how a small county would, outside of maybe collaborating with other counties, anyone have thoughts how you would serve kids in a community school if you're a small county?
I can just share that scalability is incredibly difficult. Um, County offices of education are tasked often with, through the 3-year plan, serving expelled youth. And what hasn't been mentioned here tonight that I'd like to highlight is that middle schoolers are a particular challenge when they are expelled. And I know in a county like mine with our geographic challenges, it can be really difficult to get a student in front of a teacher for as many minutes a week as possible. Um, for scalability, I mean, you really need 18 students sitting in front of a teacher to even come close to paying the teacher's salary, let alone all the extras, right? That are required to really provide robust programming. I think some of the small counties have, just through contact with them over the years, they use a lot of the online curriculum because then they can do that. If you've got 10 kids and they're in 6 different grades with 15 different academic needs, you can dial it in a little bit more with some of the online curriculum and then tutorials, and a lot of flexibility about sending your staff out to the student and then bringing the students into the staff. So I know in our rural areas, we have a teacher who goes remote twice a week down into our, what we call our South County corridor, to meet the needs of the students down there that we're tasked with serving.
We were trying to get a speaker from our small counties, and weren't able to secure that. But when we repeat this session next year, we will work really hard to get a county office that's class 6 or 7. So in terms of size. Okay, so just Deborah, could you talk a little bit about foster youth? Joanne was asked that you speak a little bit about how you're serving foster students in detention.
Sure. So I think that is a population that has a lot of its own unique needs. And I think one of the challenges that is an unintended consequence of some of the realignments is that it can be very hard to place our most at-risk foster youth. When they, I work so closely with our foster youth coordinator from the County Office of Education when we do have a student in custody, because that interview process before they can get placed in one of the foster group homes, for example, it allows the process is very slow, and those students spend more time in custody often than our students who are probation youth. And it's in Monterey County, you're one or the other, you can't be both, but I know county by county that varies. But I just feel like we lost a piece of the puzzle with our foster system when we opened all of those foster homes. I acknowledge there were a lot of challenges, and I'm aware of the reasons that those decisions were made. And I know that there are students that I have worked with who need a more secured location to address their mental health and social emotional needs before they're ready to go live in like a group home where they can just walk out the door and walk away. And I think that it has created a little bit of a bottleneck in our systems.
So you have foster youth basically living in your detention facilities because there's no placement for them? Did I hear that right?
I think most of the juvenile halls in the state of California have experienced a delay in kids getting placed in the foster homes. When that is the court order or that is the intention, it is very hard to place some of these youth. And yes, they are just staying at juvenile hall while we try to, while the system tries to find a place for that youth to go. Not all of them, our county also has one of those short-term facilities. But when you have a youth who has more of a flight risk and really complex trauma and really complex needs, we have, I don't think my county's alone in seeing
No.
uptick in that.
Yeah.
I know I've heard that from other JSAC colleagues. I should have mentioned I'm on the JSAC board, so I do speak pretty regularly with my JSAC colleagues from across the state, and we're just seeing that trend. Finny, is that what you wanted me to reflect on, that trend, especially with the girls, I think?
It's with the girls.
They're really a unique challenge. And you know, the human trafficking with our girls that are in foster systems is a huge issue. And they're safe at juvenile hall, but it's not it's not meeting some of the needs that they have, I think, because the system broke a little bit when we realigned things.
And I've heard in Sacramento as well about young people, foster youth being kept, if you will, in the juvenile hall because there's no placement for them in the community. So I agree, it is a universal. So here's another advocacy area for us to investigate as a county board, as county boards. Wow, well, thank you. I'm going to see, I don't think I see any more questions from our audience. If so, please jump on or put it in the chat because I think we're going to actually go to reflections now from our members. And so also we have a short survey, so we're going to also put that in the chat. This is a 3-question survey to give us some feedback. So while we're doing this piece, if you guys would if you would fill out the survey. But the questions were, I believe, just what some takeaways do you guys have? What stood out to you from this discussion? What people can come off mute or go in the, Debbie, just put the Google Doc in the chat if you want to also fill, if you can multitask, if you want to fill that out. But yeah, so just, was this useful? Did it raise any more questions for you, ideas for advocacy?
Hey, Bina, this is Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hi. So, anyway, Michael, first of all, I really want to thank you for pointing out many, many of these things that is really, happening in all of us. And as you know, that LACO is almost going to face receivership because of all the, issues that everybody brought up. So I believe that, next year moving forward, and for me as a trustee of ACCPE also, besides on LACO, is we really have to bring all the county boards together. This is really a common thread. This is absolutely a common thread among all of us to do advocacy on policies, on funding, on support, on the whole gamut. We just have to turn this thing whole upside down and make this, addressing this issue a year-long, many, multi-counties statewide effort. That's the only way we can do it if each one of us try different thing. And we have already so many good programs going on, and we just have to secure it, sustain it, scale it, and make sure the outcome will be, in the long term and not trying to fix here and there. And so, it may take something like someone take over LACO. It is going to happen, might be, who knows?
Yeah.
Because we are really in disaster, right, Michael?
Unfortunately, but there is progress happening, and I just the kids who are in the SYTF in Laco were my kids when they were pre-adjudicated when I was principal at Central. And so this is really
I remember.
and I'm fighting every day to help just create better conditions. And we're gonna start seeing some progress. And I would love to be able to update the board on just some of the efforts that are happening. It's just how do we make the kids whole, right? Like and
Right,
that's the
right.
part that keeps me up at night. Like while we're trying to figure it out, there are still kids living this reality. And how do we get it? How do we make them whole from this experience? So yeah, I'm not giving up though.
Yeah, thank you. Yvonne, for me personally, my most important job on my county board, in my view, is being an advocate for the kids in our court and community schools. and for our foster youth. My county office does a lot of technical assistance support to the K-12s, but this for me is the reason I ran to help bring about better outcomes for our students. And I do want to say I'm so appreciative of the work that JSAC and Joanne and Mona Lisa and Deborah and so many of the other counties are doing, and Michael to really continue to look at ways to improve outcomes for our students and to love them and to bring supports to them. And I just want to say I believe for ACCBE, this is an absolute priority, and the partnerships we've created this past year with JSAC and OICR and state probation and RAPSA are, I think, just really, really critical to us. So thank you guys. We are going to, we just want to let you know about next steps. I guess before we go to next steps, any last comment from our incredible panel? Any other words of advice or just any last comment before we close out and go to next steps? Okay. Can we use our little reaction button, you guys, and give love to this group who is just fabulous and is doing such good work? We really, really appreciate you guys. So next steps, we are going to have our third session on Court and Community Schools on November 17th. And we are so excited because we're partnering again with the Office of Youth and Community Restoration. I don't know if you all know this, but they have a youth advisory committee of young people who've come out of our Court and Community School systems and our foster youth system. And these are young people who are now going around the state and giving presentations and coming up with ideas for advocacy. And so 3 of those young people will be joining us on November 17th to do a student panel. So you're going to hear from our students, both currently in the system and those who've recently left. And we believe we have a young high school student from one of our community schools joining us as well. And then after they speak, we have an advocate from Youth Loss Center talking about some of the incredible work and their advocacy. I believe specifically working with San Mateo County, but just generally the advocacy they're doing to improve outcomes for our young people. November 13th, we have our Brown Act training from 12 to 1. And December 15th, we have our charter school renewals, approvals, and appeals in the evening. So with that, please complete your survey. We want to thank everyone for being here, especially our panel. And we'll stick around if anyone wants to chit chat, but you are free to go. And we're actually ending about 15 minutes early. So we thank you again for your time. So we'll see you, but we'll stick around if you want to chit chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice
Thank you so much, everyone.
for the honor.
Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,